The moment I was placed in her arms, she looked at me with disgust. There was no love or joy in her eyes, just a deep, unyielding anger.
Great. Not only are you a mistake, but you're also defective.
She never held me the way a mother should. She never soothed me when I cried or comforted me when I was scared. Instead, she ignored me or punished me for things I couldn't control. If I didn't understand something fast enough, she would yell at me. If I didn't do something the right way, she would punish me, as though I was deliberately trying to disappoint her. As I grew, her resentment turned into cruelty. She never enrolled me in school. She didn't care that I had the potential to learn and grow. She just saw me as a burden. When I asked about school or if I could play with other children, she told me it was pointless.
What's the point? You're never going to be anything anyway. You'll never amount to anything. The kids are going to get bored of you. Why bother them? Stay indoors and rot. Why do I even bother?
When I made a mistake, whether it was spilling a glass of water or not cleaning my room well enough, she would punish me in extreme ways. Hi, my name is Jennifer, and I've lived a life of rejection, neglect, and abandonment. Most people would think that a mother should love and protect her child no matter what, but I was never given that privilege. My mother, Sarah, didn't love me. She resented me, hated me, in fact. She couldn't stand that I existed, and it wasn't just because I had Down syndrome. I ruined her life, or at least that's what she always told me. To understand why she hated me so much, you have to know how I came into this world. It wasn't the story of a loving couple bringing a child into the world with hope and excitement. No, my story started with a mistake. At least, to her it was. Sarah was rebellious from the start, the black sheep of the family. She didn't want to live by anyone's rules, especially her parents, who were strict, old-fashioned people. At the age of 20, she decided to leave everything behind, her home, her family, the small-town life that was choking her spirit. She wanted more than what her parents expected of her, and she thought she'd find it in the big city. It didn't take long for her to meet someone who promised her the excitement she craved. His name was Jack, and he was everything she wanted. Their affair was nothing more than a brief fling, but it would have lifelong consequences. When Sarah found out she was pregnant, her world collapsed. The life she had envisioned was gone in an instant. She was 21, pregnant, and scared. She thought about aborting me but couldn't bring herself to go through with it. Instead, she chose to keep me, but her bitterness grew every day. She began telling me how everything is my fault right from when she was still pregnant with me. She would always say how I ruined everything from her, as if I'd personally asked to be brought to Earth. When I was born, she wasn't happy. I wasn't the beautiful, healthy baby she'd hoped for. I had Down syndrome, a diagnosis that made her hate me even more. The moment I was placed in her arms, she looked at me with disgust. There was no love or joy in her eyes, just a deep, unyielding anger.
Great. Not only are you a mistake, but you're also defective.
She never held me the way a mother should. She never soothed me when I cried or comforted me when I was scared. Instead, she ignored me or punished me for things I couldn't control. If I didn't understand something fast enough, she would yell at me. If I didn't do something the right way, she would punish me, as though I was deliberately trying to disappoint her. As I grew, her resentment turned into cruelty. She never enrolled me in school. She didn't care that I had the potential to learn and grow. She just saw me as a burden. When I asked about school or if I could play with other children, she told me it was pointless.
What's the point? You're never going to be anything anyway. You'll never amount to anything. The kids are going to get bored of you. Why bother them? Stay indoors and rot. Why do I even bother?
When I made a mistake, whether it was spilling a glass of water or not cleaning my room well enough, she would punish me in extreme ways. One time, I accidentally broke her favorite vase while dusting. She didn't speak to me for days after that. She locked me in my room, refusing to feed me. When she did let me out, she told me I was a failure.
You can't do anything right. You don't deserve anything from me.
It wasn't just neglect. It was active hatred. She took pleasure in my suffering. Every time I would reach out for affection, she would pull away. I learned to stop trying because it only made things worse. By the time I turned 10, things had only gotten worse. Sarah had met a man named Victor. He was different from Jack. He was controlling and manipulative, but Sarah was in love with him, or at least she thought she was. When they started dating, she changed. She became more distant and cold, and the cruelty she showed me became even more pronounced. Victor didn't like me. He didn't like that I existed. He thought I was a hindrance to Sarah's freedom, and Sarah, desperate to keep him in her life, agreed.
Get rid of the kid. She's just a burden.
It didn't take long for Sarah to make a decision. One evening, she told me we were going somewhere. I thought it was a treat, maybe to the park or the zoo. But instead, she took me to an unfamiliar building. When I asked where we were going, she didn't answer. She just kept walking until we entered the building, and she handed me over to a woman.
Take care of her. She's yours now.
And then she turned around and walked out without even a second glance. I called out for her, cried, and begged her to come back, but she didn't even slow down. I was left in a strange place, surrounded by people I didn't know, with no idea what was happening. The woman, who was a staff member at the orphanage, looked at me with pity but didn't say anything. She just took my hand and led me inside. I waited. For days, I waited, thinking that Sarah would come back for me. I told myself that it was all a mistake, that she was just temporarily upset. But she never came back. It wasn't until much later that I realized what had happened. Sarah had abandoned me, not because she couldn't care for me, but because she didn't want me. She had finally chosen Victor over me, and I was nothing more than an obstacle in her pursuit of happiness. The orphanage became my new home. It wasn't perfect, but for the first time, I was treated with kindness. I met other children who were like me, children who had been abandoned by their families, children who understood what it felt like to be rejected. But the scars my mother left on me ran deep. Every time I looked at myself in the mirror, I heard her voice.
You're worthless. You'll never be good enough for anyone.
After spending a whole year at the orphanage, I was finally adopted by a middle-aged couple. They were kind, with gentle faces and warm hearts. Rob and Mary had already raised their children, all of whom were adults with lives of their own. They wanted to open their home to someone who needed care, and they chose me. They were patient and understanding with me. They enrolled me in a special school. My new brothers and sisters, even though they were much older than me, treated me with the same kindness and love they had for their own children. I never lacked for affection. They treated me as their own, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly loved. In their home, I found peace. I forgot about Sarah. I forgot the cruelty, the neglect, the hatred she had held for me. In my new home, I had challenges that came with having Down syndrome. But Rob and Mary never treated me as anything less than capable. They nurtured my dreams, encouraged me to pursue what I wanted in life, and showed me the value of hard work and dedication. I eventually went on to run my own business at age 24. I also started an NGO that provided support for children with special needs, making sure they had access to the resources they deserved. My life wasn't perfect, but it was full. I had purpose, I had love, and I felt complete. I thought I had finally escaped my past, but then everything changed. Sarah suddenly showed up. I was shocked, wondering what she was doing at my office. She was looking older, worn down. The woman who had once been my mother, who had abandoned me without a second thought. And then, my gaze shifted to the 3 teenagers standing beside her. They were all quiet, their eyes downcast. They looked so lost, so helpless. I knew immediately who they were. They were her children. What do you want?
Jennifer, I'm so sorry for coming here. I know it's shameless of me to show myself to you, but I need your help.
I couldn't move. The anger I had buried deep inside me flared to life. My help? After everything you've done to me?
I didn't mean it like that. I need someone to help me with them. These are my kids. They're triplets and disabled, as you can see. I need you to help me with them.
I looked at the teenagers again. They were so quiet, their faces full of confusion and uncertainty. They looked lost, just like I had once felt. I immediately understood what she meant. I can't believe you. You want to leave them at my foundation, don't you? How could you be so cruel?
No, I just can't do it on my own anymore. Victor, he left me. He couldn't handle it, Jennifer. He couldn't handle them. He said they're imbeciles. Even though they're his kids, he couldn't stand them.
Her words hit me like a slap in the face. Imbeciles. She was still calling her own children that? I could feel the anger rising up inside me, burning hotter with every passing second. How dare you? You left me. You abandoned me when I needed you. And now you're asking me to help you with this? To take them off your hands the way you took me to that orphanage?
I didn't want it to be this way. I never wanted to abandon you. I just didn't know what to do.
No, you don't get to play the victim here. You abandoned me. You're planning to abandon them. You never cared. You still don't. And now you want my help after everything? You're the one who needs to deal with this, not me. She began sobbing.
I can't do this alone. I met someone, a man. He's nice. But if he knows about them, he'll never want me. I can't lose him, Jennifer. Please, please help me.
She was trying to get rid of them to make room for some man. The same thing she did to me. You're still the same. You haven't learned a thing. You haven't changed. You're still trying to run away, just like you ran from me.
Please, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything, Jennifer. I was wrong. I know that now.
I didn't believe her, not for a second. But something inside me snapped, and I acted on pure instinct. I raised my hand and slapped her hard. You don't get to do this. You don't get to leave them the way you left me. You owe them, Sarah. You owe them everything. You're going to take care of them.
But how will I even do that?
Don't you dare yell at me. I'll help you find a job. But if you try to leave them again, if you try to abandon them like you did me, I swear I'll make sure the police find you. You'll pay for what you've done.
Okay, I'll do anything. Please just help me. Help me do better.
I couldn't forgive her, not at all. But I wasn't going to let her abandon these children, not again. I'll help you, but only if you promise to do right by them. If you try to leave them, remember that I'll make sure the authorities know where you are. She nodded, already sobbing. I didn't know if she was truly sorry or if she was just scared, but I wasn't about to let her off easy. I helped Sarah find a job, not a fancy one, but as a cleaner at our NGO. It was something simple but steady, and I made sure she faced the consequences of her actions. Every day, I checked on her, ensuring she didn't slip back into her old ways. She wasn't perfect, but she was trying, and maybe that was enough for now. She had to take good care of her kids or face the wrath of the cops. Her new boyfriend eventually found out about her triplets and abandoned her, leaving her with no choice but to work as a cleaner to support them. I know it's not easy doing such job and taking care of 3 special need kids, but she deserves it. I made sure she didn't get any extra privileges. Sometimes colleagues would ask if she was really my mother, and I would deny it. Thanks for watching.